Here we go again.
No, not again.
You've been before.
How long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the
Again and again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind. Mission Impossible Fallout has just hit theaters. It is the sixth film in the franchise, this time directed by Christopher McQuarrie, and once again stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, and also stars Henry Cavill as the Hammer, a CIA assassin, and as well as bringing back Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg as Ethan Hunt's teammates. And this time around, this is set approximately 2 years after the events of the fifth film in the franchise, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and the leftovers of the Syndicate are up to a diabolical scheme to use nuclear weapons to cause devastation around the world. And it is up to Ethan Hunt's team in order to track these guys down and eliminate the nuclear threat. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Mission Impossible Fallout, as well as certain other films and TV series. I'll put a full list in the description below. And if you've not seen Mission Impossible yet, or any of the films or TV series listed below, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. But with these things in mind though, let's begin. So one of the great things about the Mission Impossible franchise, it has great action scenes and great chase scenes, and this film is no exception. However, one of the chase scenes in this latest film bears a striking resemblance to another Henry Cavill film, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. In Mission Impossible Fallout, during a chase scene in which Ethan Hunt and Henry Cavill's character August Walker are being chased through the streets of Paris in a truck, they go down this alleyway, and the alleyway is getting narrower and narrower until the truck ends up getting jammed into this alleyway and can't go any further. So Ethan Hunt and Walker must get out of the truck and proceed on foot, or at least get out to the at least as far as with their motorcycles are, and continue that way. Very similar to The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which also stars Henry Cavill as Napoleon Solo, and the scene in which, near the beginning of the film, where Solo is being chased through the streets of East Berlin by communist forces, the car that he's in goes down an alleyway in East Berlin. The alleyway gets narrower and narrower once again, and they get jammed in the alleyway, and they must proceed on foot. Solo and his charge must proceed on foot after that point. Another interesting comparison to be made is in Mission Impossible Fallout, during the skydiving scene where Ethan Hunt and Walker must skydive into Paris from a high altitude. It's mentioned that the heads-up display of their helmets will show them the way down through the canyon, the cloud canopy, and it will tell them when to deploy their chutes in order to find the target that they're going to in Paris. This is very similar, of course, to another scene in Star Trek Into Darkness, where both Kirk and Khan are basically space diving through between the Enterprise and the Vengeance, which they must navigate a debris field, and their heads-up displays are showing them the way between the debris field and towards their target on the enemy ship. Coincidentally, both of these films are produced by Bad Robots, which is J.J. Abrams' production company, so a coincidence, but it's a fun comparison nonetheless. Finally, there's a scene in Mission Impossible where the scientist who designed these nuclear bombs is captured, and we cut to a scene in which Ving Rhames' character is interrogating him, and Ethan Hunt comes in and shows him a news feed in which these bombs have gone off in Rome, Jerusalem, and Mecca, and they somehow trick this scientist into revealing the code of his phone in order, which has the plan, their plans and timetables of their plan, and they the scientist assumes that it won't do them any good because what's done is done. However, once they get the code, it is revealed that it is all an elaborate simulation on the IMF's part, and the bombs are yet to go off, so they still have a chance to destroy, to stop their plans. Now, other films have done this before, but an example of this type of situation that I've used in the past are two examples, actually, both from Star Trek, of course, are both Star Trek Insurrection and an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation from season 6 called Ship in a Bottle. Both of these movies, in this movie and this episode of Star Trek, feature a situation where characters are put into a simulation of a plan that is going to happen. They see something happen, but it's actually a trick put on by either the good guys or the bad guy. In case of Insurrection, it is a simulation of the enemy ship's bridge, where they show them a simulation of their plan to collect the radiation from the rings of the Baku planet, and that would kill everyone on the planet. But of course, it's a simulation. There's still time to stop it. And in Ship in a Bottle, it is in fact the sentient hologram Moriarty who creates a simulation of the Enterprise, where Captain Picard, Data, and Lieutenant Barclay are caught, and they believe that when Captain Picard believes that he's on the real Enterprise, he gives his command codes to the computer, thinking that it will solve the computer stoppages. But in reality, he just gave his command codes to Moriarty so that he can continue his plan with the actual Enterprise. So, of course, this has been done in other movies before, but those are just two ready examples that I often think of when I see this type of situation. So with all this being said, of course, the great question is, if you haven't already seen it, is Mission Impossible worth your time? I would say absolutely. It is a great film. It is beautifully made. The shots are gorgeous, especially I love the use of how they go from just back music with no ambient sounds, or on the reverse, use ambient sound and no real music or very quiet music to a great effect. And the director did this superbly throughout the film. The only downsides I would see to this is it is very predictable. The things that do happen, the reveals that happen, are very easily telegraphed. I was able to predict them quite easily. I mean, you can kind of think of what it is a mystery of who's aligned with what on a certain instance, but as soon as one thing happens, then everything kind of falls into place and becomes rather generic. But overall, I would say the character drama is really good, especially between Ethan Hunt and his wife, his former wife, who he still cares about, who he married in Mission Impossible 3, but he rarely sees her now because she ends up getting his activities with the IMF put her in danger, which, even though that her being separate is supposed to keep her away from that, of course she ends up in danger once again here. So that obviously didn't work out so well. But all in all, I would say it is a great film, great action, beautifully shot. It is worth your time. My only, other than what I said about being predictable, people are already saying that Mission Impossible is now better than the James Bond franchise. While I would say that is up to taste, I personally think that James Bond is better simply because there's a lot richer history together and the character of Bond is so strong. But, I mean, Mission Impossible, it is more modern focused, and you gotta admit, Tom Cruise doing all these stunts as old as he is very impressive in that regard. So, thank you all for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to check out my next review, which will be for The Meg, which comes out August 10th. And yeah, just thank you so much for watching, and just remember, there's nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.